Anime. 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 Another new year is here, and you know what that means? Another year of too many isekai anime. I mean, when did this happen? When did the anime industry, anime studios, and the anime fandom become so freaking obsessed with isekai anime? Like, the isekai genre has been around for a long-ass time now. There's always been, like, isekai anime, at least since I've been alive and knew what anime was. But there's never been, like, this many. Reborn as a vending machine, now I wandered the dungeon. Campfire cooking in another world with my absurd skill. In another world with my smartphone. Reincarnated as a sword. Dragon Ball, that time I got reincarnated as Yamcha. Yes, they really did make a Dragon Ball Z isekai. Someone has to put a stop to this. Hello, you beautiful people. I am Finn. Oh, welcome back to finnfilms. Unfortunately, as long as people continue to watch this isekai dribble, a lot of this isekai brain rot, anime studios and manga writers are going to continue to pump it out. So that's why today I'm going to be checking out every single isekai for Winter Anime 2025. Now, I expect most, if not all, of these isekais to be absolutely hot garbage, just full isekai fantasy trope fest, but I do know for a fact that there is at least one hidden gem hidden away in the newest seasonal anime of Winter 2025. Isekai such as MAPPA's new Isekai Zenshu and the Power Rangers Isekai? Now, for those of you who have watched my anime content over the last few years, you will probably know that I am, well, pretty sick of the isekai genre. It's not like I don't like the isekai genre or like isekai as a premise. There's plenty of isekai anime that I do enjoy. It's just that the genre has become so oversaturated and it feels like it's just being jammed down our throat every single year that I've just come to expect that almost every single new isekai that I encounter to be a tropey hot mess, a tropey mess of garbage of all of the same isekai fantasy themes that we've seen played out, for years now in almost every single anime. Of course, though, every once in a while, a new isekai will come along that actually does manage to reinvent the isekai genre and put its own unique kind of spin on it, such as with the comedy isekai anime like Konosuba and The Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, for example. These anime obviously being satirical kind of comedy takes on the isekai genre. But even now, though, the comedy kind of satire isekai anime that are coming around are just so oversaturated with the likes of the freaking vending machine anime, or possibly one of the newest isekai from Winter 2025, the daily life of a middle-aged online shopper in another world. What? Also, we really need to sit down and have a conversation about the titles of all of these isekai anime. Kenichi, a single man in his 40s, is transported into another world for no apparent reason. As he tries to escape a dangerous forest teeming with monsters, he realizes that he has the power to access a huge online store. Yes, with the power of Amazon and Jeff Bezos, I will vanquish my foes. By using this power to exchange goods he found in this new world for cash, and then buying modern ones off the internet, he was able to quickly create a very popular business. However, his goal is to have a slow and leisurely life. Instead of growing his business even more, he decides to settle down and live off the power of Jeff Bezos. Wait, what the fuck? It actually is an Amazon isekai. Oh no, guys, I just saw it right here. It's an ecchi harem anime. Okay, that's it. Where did I put my horny jail bat? Oh god, no. There's lollies and furries too in this anime. You know what that means, right? This anime's actually gonna be popular, isn't it? Now, look, I'm only playing just a little bit. I'm not trying to be a hater, especially for all of my Djin-loving, anime otakus out there on the internet. Every one of us has a little bit of Djin inside of us, but at least be a little more tasteful, with your horny bait than this. I mean, this very much just seems like your classic kind of like harem isekai horny bait. You got a lazy middle-aged man surrounded by various cute girls of all shapes and sizes who very much seem to be obsessed with him while he solves all of his, problems in this fantasy world through online shopping of all things. Don't get me wrong, this anime could be funny. It is a comedy anime. At its first glance, it does seem like it will be kind of a mindless isekai trope fest, a little bit of isekai brain rot. To me, I really hope that this anime turns out to be funny as a comedy isekai, because unless it's funny, it really doesn't seem like it has anything really uniquely going for it. Well, besides the horny bait, I guess. Moving on, we are switching it up a little bit as I am discussing a reverse isekai. Welcome to Japan, Miss Elf. Our main character's only hobby is sleeping. Ever since he was young, he would enter a wondrous world within his dreams and go on thrilling adventures. One day, he goes on an adventure with an elf girl that he has befriended, but the dream suddenly becomes to an end when they are both scorched by dragon's breath. As he wakes up from his dream, he notices a familiar figure sleeping next to him, the elf girl from his dreams. Yes, for all intents and purposes, this is an isekai. However, it is a kind of reverse isekai, where a figure from a fantasy world in this instant comes to our world and experiences our world, and all the shenanigans ensue from that. And oh my god, no, there's more furries, guys. So judging from the trailer and the synopsis that I just read, this anime is a kind of wholesome rom-com, will they, won't they, slice of life with a little bit of horny bait sprinkled throughout for all of the degens out there. As we all know, you can't have a fantasy isekai without a cute girl, and you can't have a cute girl in an anime without horny bait. Oh, did I mention that the elf girl is supposed to be 102 years old? The plot seems to cycle back and forth through the elf girl experiencing our world, the wonders of our modern world during the day, and then at night, when both of them are sleeping, they re-enter into the fantasy world, and it becomes a kind of, classic fantasy isekai type anime with, the plot simultaneously shifting back and forth between our world and the fantasy world. As far as the premise for an isekai goes, I will give them credit for this kind of unique take on it. The fact that the story is shifting between, a reverse isekai and an isekai, and, both of the characters' kind of reactions to both of these worlds, the elf girl's reaction to our world, and the our main character Guy's reaction to the fantasy world. It definitely in that aspect breaks kind of the tropey cycle of like a normal fantasy anime by being a kind of reverse, isekai as well throughout this anime. It does just seem like it very much is a cute kind of comedy anime, cute kind of comedy rom-com. I doubt this anime will make like major waves or anything, but in terms of like the isekai genre as a whole, I do have to give it some props, give it a few points for at least doing things a bit differently and putting a unique kind of spin on their premise for a fantasy isekai story. Next up, we have Magic Maker, How to Make Magic in Another World. A 30-year-old man dies unexpectedly, waking up in another world. Damn, they really just got right to the point, didn't they? Oh yeah, and did I mention that when he is reincarnated in this other world, this other fantasy world, he's now a freaking kid. Yeah, that's not sus at all, especially when you realize that he's surrounded by all sorts of girl side characters. Theon had high hopes that there would be magic in this world, but there was no magic, so he decides to make it himself. Theon begins researching magic, discovering magic and becoming a hero in another world. This is the story of a magic fool who, while tossed about by fate, overcomes it with the power of magic and an indomitable fighting spirit, ultimately propagating magic to the people. Bro, we need to have a serious word with whoever wrote this, story synopsis on my anime list. So it seems like we got ourselves another classic trope fest of all the classic kind of tropes for a fantasy isekai. A 30-year-old nerd who's obsessed with magic, who dies and then gets reborn in a fantasy world as a child, where he is the first person to discover magic and then become a hero in this fantasy world, spreading magic to the rest of the people. Fantasy world, check. Too many female side characters, check. OP main character, check. Sus harem tropes, check. Yeah, I think we hit all of the major fantasy isekai tropes, guys. As far as isekais go, this one to me really just falls flat. Maybe if this anime were to come out 10 years ago, it would have been kind of genre defining in many ways for the fantasy isekai. But we've been there and done that with so many fantasy isekai at this point that nothing really stands out in this one to me. Maybe I'm being too harsh on an anime that I've only read, the synopsis for and just seen the trailer for. But honestly, as soon as I saw that the middle-aged guy was reincarnated as a young kid and then surrounded by young girls, Yeah, that's too sus for me, my dudes. Continuing on in this classic fantasy isekai trope fest, we have A Promise of Wizards, the anime, an anime adapted from a mobile game that seemingly is pretty popular in Japan. On a moonlit night, Akira Misaki finds herself in a magical world where wizards and humans coexist. Every year, they face an enormous deadly moon that attacks the planet. Their only hope lies with the Wizards of the Sage, who is appointed to fight this threat. But Akira soon discovers she wasn't summoned by chance. She was chosen to lead them in battle. So again, on the surface, this feels like another kind of classic fantasy isekai hitting all of these, really classic kind of fantasy isekai tropes right away. But I will cut this anime some slack, seeing as it was adapted from a video game that is seemingly relatively pretty popular in Japan. What really caught me off guard is the fact that this anime is being done by finnfilms, probably most famous for the anime Tokyo Revengers. So it does lead me to believe that this anime does maybe have some potential and possibly will be popular, especially again if it's adapted from a video game, a mobile game that is popular in Japan and seemingly follows a similar plot. Oh, side note, apparently this game has a stage play that's been done about it, which is hilariously awesome to me. I mean, Japan loves a good anime-adapted stage play. I remember a few years back there was like this One Piece stage play that went kind of viral online, and this is just one of those things about Japan and Japanese culture that I absolutely love and find hilarious. Anyway, I don't think that this anime is going to be like anything special. I guess if you're a fan of this video game, a fan of the mobile game, you will probably watch it, and you'll probably enjoy it. I will give it points for having an original storyline, and it does seem like, judging from the popularity of this game in Japan, that people will like this anime and probably watch it, but this one doesn't really seem like it's for me. Okay, now I want to talk about what might be the goofiest new isekai, the goofiest premise for an isekai that I have seen in years. Yeah, that's right, we're talking about the Power Ranger Isekai. The Red Ranger becomes an adventurer in another world. In the final battles against the evil exterminators, Agasaki, a Power Ranger, trades his life for the enemies, but he suddenly finds himself in another world. He becomes an adventurer, transforming into Kizuna Red, the Red Ranger, and continues fighting to save people in trouble. He meets a young wizard named Idala, and his journey begins in the new world. And of course, they had to give her massive boobs, didn't they? This is not how I remember Power Rangers going when I was a kid. So yeah, this is literally just Power Rangers, the fantasy isekai. Literally just sticking a Power Ranger and throwing them into a fantasy isekai world. To me, this is a prime example of the isekai genre getting a bit out of hand. I mean, they've seemingly run out of any new kind of unique ideas for the fantasy isekai, so they're just going to take a character from a popular franchise and then just toss them into the isekai world, and then surround them with way too many female side characters and give them all massive boobs and then call it a day. Now look, this anime could end up being a solid kind of comedy, adventure, action anime. Judging from the trailer, it does look like it could be funny, and it is being made by Satellite Studios, so there is some potential there. You know, the studio most famous probably for Hellsing, Fairy Tail, and Log Horizon. So it's not like they don't have experience in making kind of fantasy isekai trapped in a video game type anime. To me, though, this is a prime example of how saturated the isekai genre is and how it really feels like they're grasping at straws and will just make any premise of a story into an isekai. And I don't blame them, because as long as anime fans continue to watch stuff like this, they are going to continue to pump out, brain rot isekai anime, type anime. Like, at least for the online shopper isekai I talked about earlier in the video, they came up with a unique kind of funny premise scenario for the anime. I mean, hell, even the vending machine isekai is more creative than this. Let's just stick a Power Ranger in a fantasy isekai world and call it a day. Like, couldn't we be a little bit more creative than that? However, an upcoming isekai that actually is a bit more creative is this, Headhunted to Another World, from salaryman to Big Four. Uchimura is your everyday normal salaryman trying to climb the corporate ladder, but then one day he is summoned to a fantasy world by a demon overlord who offers him a new job. As a heavenly king in his army with full benefits, Uchimura may not have muscles or magic, but he does have an office worker's skill set and savvy. Will this be enough to keep him alive in this fantasy world? Now this is more like it, a comedy isekai with an actual funny premise, for an isekai. Taking this Japanese kind of salaryman culture and putting a funny, kind of satirical spin on it. None of this OP main character nonsense. Let's just take a normal dude and drop him into a chaotic fantasy world and watch the shenanigans ensue. It's not like this anime is genre defining or anything in how it does the premise for an, a fantasy isekai, but at least it's a unique enough story premise that you can see where the comedy comes from. And at the end of the day, it is a comedy anime, so if it is funny, then that's job well done. I mean, of course, it suffers from a lot of the same kind of fantasy isekai tropes. Obviously, we have our big boob elf girl, which is basically mandatory, it seems like, in any fantasy isekai. I do, however, give them props for at least having a good kind of comedic story premise, and it does seem like this anime will actually be funny, so I may actually give this isekai an actual chance. Finally, I want to talk about what I think might be the best new isekai to come out in winter anime 2025. This might actually be the best new isekai that comes out all year, and that is the MAPPA Isekai Zenshu. After graduating high school, Natsuko Hirose starts her career as an animator. Her talent flourishes and she makes her debut as a director, her first anime becoming a massive hit. Her next project is a romantic comedy themed around first love. However, having never been in love herself, Natsuko struggles to understand the concept of first love. As a result, she is unable to create a storyboard, causing the movie production to come to a standstill. Now, right now, you may be like, Finn, what the fuck? That doesn't sound like an isekai to me. What gives? I know, right? The synopsis is rather sneaky, but I assure you that this is very much an isekai anime. As our main character ends up waking up in another world, the world of her favorite childhood anime, the series that led her to becoming an animator in the first place. However, our main character Natsuko knows how this anime will end, and let me tell ya, it's not a good ending. But fret not, she discovers that with her animator powers, that she has the ability to change this story on the fly, and so she can survive the cruelness of being placed in her favorite childhood anime. As far as like a premise for an isekai goes, I have to say that I absolutely love this. It's super unique and fun, and I love how meta it is in making an anime about an animator who makes an anime and then is stuck within her favorite childhood anime. On top of all of this, the fact that it is MAPPA Studio that is behind this anime really gives it, kind of a lot of hype, as MAPPA rarely misses when it comes to making, picking anime that they want to adapt, and that because it's MAPPA, that the animations for this anime are going to be top-notch. So at the very least, visually, it's going to look good. This is how you put a new spin on the fantasy isekai genre from a storytelling perspective. Of course, it still has classic isekai tropes, like being transported to a fantasy world, but it's given this a kind of new spin, making it an anime world instead of just your normal kind of, fantasy isekai world. And the fact that our main character is familiar with this, anime world in the story makes it a very personal kind of story, as well as the fact that they are approaching it from the fact that she is an animator and she has the perspective of an animator, which is able to change the story on the fly that she is experiencing, as well, where maybe our main character will actually learn about first loves in the process. Maybe there's going to be a little rom-com action on the way. This is by far the isekai that I am most excited for winter 2025, and again, I think that this anime, this isekai, could end up being the standout isekai, the best isekai that comes out for the entire year of 2025. Again, obviously having MAPPA behind you is a huge plus, and again, it guarantees big hype and really solid, high-quality animations. But from a story perspective, I am definitely intrigued by Zenshu, the MAPPA Isekai, as a premise for an anime, and I do think that it actually could be really good, but I guess only time will tell. And yeah, that's it for all of the isekai that I could find for winter 2025. Let me know in the comment section down below if I missed any isekai, and as well, let me know what isekai you are looking forward to the most for winter anime 2025. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as that is the easiest way to help support me, and it really does go a long way in putting this video into the algorithm. As well, if you did enjoy this video, then why don't you check out some of my other anime content on screen now. As always, guys, thank you once again for continuing to support me. I hope to see you in the next video. Until next time, stay safe out there. Peace, love, Adu.